they get more roads, they pay less taxes, they get more municipal funding, they get more industrial zones and public buildings. So what we saw before, Netanyahu speaking about freezing the settlements, is in fact a complete contradiction to the fact that still those illegal colonies continue to receive funding from the government. And while the Israeli population grows by an average of 1.8% every year, this is the rate of growth of the Israeli population, the rate of growth of the settlements, of the colonies, is over 7% every year. Which means that because of all these subsidies, because of all this support by the government, the colonies are expanding rapidly, and more people are drawn to live in the colonies because that's how they can get a lot of subsidies. And this is where the Bank of Dexia comes in. Dexia is a Belgian bank. And as a Belgian bank, they have businesses all over the world. One of the areas that they've decided to invest is the West Bank. Although what they are doing, in fact, is illegal, because they are providing assistance to a war crime, should be completely clear that building colonies in an occupied land is a war crime. So they are collaborating with a war crime. And they are doing this, they have been doing that as a private bank because of the very nice interest that they got for their loans. They gave loans to those colonies, the colonies used the money to expand, to grow, and they paid a high interest to the Bank of Dexia. And you can even see the numbers in this graph of how much money in billions of shekels has been invested already into these special subsidies. And the municipality budget, which is right there, at not at the very top, but one of the very top budgets, is at almost 25 billion shekels. And right above it is the housing budget, the housing subsidies of about almost 35 billion Israeli shekels. So altogether, we're talking about 60 billion Israeli shekels, just municipalities and housing. And 60 billion Israeli shekels is more than 10 billion euros. And this is the kind of advantage that is done through the local municipalities. And this is the kind of subsidy that is especially interesting for a bank like Dexia to be involved in.
Has the government made any statement then on its policy regarding the bank?
The Belgian government itself did not make any statement that I know of regarding the bank, but the bank did make a statement. And the local branch in Israel of Dexia Bank made a statement which I think is very worrying. What he said is that Dexia is only supporting 7 colonies, and these colonies are not the worst kind of colonies. They are colonies that are in the consensus, in the Israeli consensus, of course, not in the Palestinian consensus. And he gave a list of 7 colonies to appease the international community, to appease the boycott movement, to say, look, we're not that involved in the occupation. We're only slightly involved. But of course, international law is very clear. No colony is legal. But by making that statement, as a representative of the Bank of Dexia, he was actually giving the impression that Dexia follows the Israeli policy of separating between different kinds of settlements. So Dexia is actually supporting this kind of argument that international law, okay, but Israeli law is more important. Perhaps the last point that I would like to make is that there is a growing boycott movement against Israel. And the growing boycott movement, also called BDS, BDS stands for Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions, is spreading all over the world. And there is a growing campaign in Belgium against the Dexia Bank by people who are very concerned of this bank's involvement in illegal activity. And so they are calling for the bank to liquidate its loans with the illegal colonies, not to renew the loans, to stop all trade with these illegal colonies, And also there are many campaigns calling on civilians in Europe and in other places of the world to make a moral choice not to be involved in the occupation, not to support companies that provide services to Israel in order to occupy the Palestinians, and not to buy Israeli goods, thereby supporting the Israeli economy. Do you have any questions?